Toma stood behind his small trade stall in the corner of the spaceport market. The day was quiet. Only a few travelers passed by, most of them in a hurry to reach their ships. His stall looked old compared to the shining metal booths nearby. But Toma didn't mind. He liked the silence. He was a human trader, one of the few still bringing Earth items across the stars. His table had odd things: old music players, paper books, colorful shirts, and small glass bottles filled with unknown liquids. Most aliens didn't know what these things were, but sometimes someone curious would stop and ask Dot. There was one bottle he never sold, a dark glass bottle with a faded label that read whiskey, made on Earth. It was a gift from his grandfather, who had told him, "Don't drink it until you find something worth remembering." So, Toma kept it at the back of the stall, half hidden under a cloth. Around midday, a new visitor came into the market. She was tall, with smooth silver skin and long white hair that flowed behind her like silk. Her clothes were elegant, with lines that shimmered softly under the sun. Many traders stopped what they were doing to look at her. She walked with calm steps, her eyes scanning the market. When she reached Toma's stall, she paused. Her voice was soft but clear. "What is that?" she asked, pointing to the bottle half hidden behind a stack of old books. Toma glanced at the bottle, then back at the woman. "It's nothing, just an old bottle, not for sale." The woman smiled slightly. "Everything has a price." Toma shook his head. "Not this one. It's from Earth, a rare kind of drink, special to me." The woman tilted her head. "Earth, so you are human?" "Yes," Toma replied. "And you?" "My name is Velen," she said. "I'm from the high clouds of Eloria. I serve as guardian of House Velen." Toma didn't know much about Eloria, but he had heard that the high houses were powerful. Still, he kept his tone polite. "Nice to meet you, Velen, but the bottle stays with me." Velen reached into a small pouch at her side and pulled out a crystal coin. It sparkled with colors that changed as the light hit it. "This is a star crystal," she said. "Very rare. It can power a ship for 10 years. I will give you this for the bottle." Toma looked at the coin, then back at the bottle. His heart beat a little faster. The coin could pay for fuel, food, and repairs for months. He could finally upgrade his ship, maybe even leave the trading life behind. But it was the last bottle, the one thing that still connected him to Earth and his family. He hesitated. Velen watched him patiently, not saying a word. There was no pressure. In her eyes, only curiosity. Toma took a deep breath and nodded. "All right," he said. "It's yours." He wrapped the bottle carefully and handed it to her. Velen accepted it with both hands, her face calm. "You have made a good trade," she said. "Thank you." She placed the coin on the table and turned to leave. Toma watched her walk away, the long white fabric of her robe trailing behind her. As she disappeared into the crowd, he looked down at the coin in his hand. It was warm, almost pulsing with energy. He felt a strange sense of loss. The bottle had been with him for years, a quiet reminder of where he came from. Now, it was gone. That night, Toma sat alone in his small ship, the coin resting on the table beside him. He stared out the window at the stars, wondering why he felt so uneasy. It had been a good trade, better than anything he had done in weeks. So why did it feel unfinished? Before he slept, he checked his crates, making sure all items were secure. When he reached the crate where he kept his rare items, he noticed something strange. A glowing stone had been placed inside a small orb of light, resting on top of a folded piece of paper. Toma picked up the paper and read the words written in neat, flowing letters. "Your presence is requested at House Velen. Transportation will arrive shortly." His eyebrows rose. He looked around, but no one else was on the ship. He hadn't seen anyone enter. The door was locked. The stone continued to glow softly in his hand. "Strange," he whispered. He placed the paper and stone back in the crate and lay down. But sleep didn't come easily. His thoughts kept drifting back to Velen, her calm voice, the way she had looked at the bottle, and the strange light in her eyes. The next morning, as the sun rose over the metal walls of the port, a sleek silver ship landed outside his dock. Its surface was smooth, like glass, and it hummed softly as it touched the ground. 3 figures stepped out. All 3 were women. Their clothes were similar to Velen's, though each one had different colors and patterns. One had hair like golden thread, the other had deep green eyes, and the third wore a scarf of floating lights. They walked toward him with quiet smiles. "You are Toma, the trader?" one of them asked. "Yes," he said, still surprised. "We have come to escort you to House Velen," she said. "Our mother has prepared a place for you." Toma looked at the silver ship, then back at the 3 women. He didn't know what this meant or where it would lead, but something told him this was only the beginning. Toma stood at the edge of the landing pad, staring at the silver ship in front of him. It was like nothing he had seen before. The surface of the ship looked like flowing water frozen in place. Light slid across it without reflection, as if the metal was drinking it in. The 3 alien women waited patiently. Each of them stood with quiet grace, and though they looked different, there was something familiar in their eyes, calm, gentle, but focused. Toma cleared his throat. "You said, House Velen?" The one with the golden hair stepped forward. She nodded. "Yes. Our mother Velen asked us to bring you. She said you were an honored guest." Toma still didn't understand what this was all about. He had only sold a bottle of whiskey, a rare one, yes, but still just a drink. Now there was a glowing stone, a formal invitation, and a ship waiting for him. He scratched his head. "Why does she want to see me again?" The woman with green eyes replied. "She said the trade you made was special. Our family wants to thank you properly." Toma looked at his small ship, then at the spaceport around him. The place had grown dull. Same stalls, same faces. Maybe it was time for something different. He gave a small nod. "All right, I'll come." The 3 women smiled in unison and stepped aside. The ramp of the silver ship lowered without a sound. Inside, the ship was quiet and smooth. The walls glowed softly, not from lights, but from something in the material itself. The air smelled fresh, like a garden after rain. The women led Toma to a round seat in the center of the cabin. As he sat down, the floor beneath him vibrated gently. A hum began, soft and peaceful. No one touched a control panel. The ship simply rose into the air and turned toward the sky. Toma looked out the window. The port grew smaller and smaller until it disappeared behind a wall of clouds. "How far is House Velen?" he asked. The 3rd woman, who wore the scarf of lights, answered, "Not far in distance, but far in the way the world feels." He wasn't sure what that meant, so he stayed quiet and watched the clouds. After a short time, the clouds broke open, revealing something that made Toma sit forward in surprise. A floating island, large as a city, hung in the sky. Waterfalls fell from its edges, but vanished into mist before reaching the land below. Gardens bloomed in all colors, and towers of white stone reached upward like fingers touching the stars. The ship moved closer, slowing down as it neared a platform shaped like a leaf. The ship landed without a sound. As the ramp opened, warm air touched Toma's face. It smelled of flowers and fruit. Birds with silver wings flew above, their calls like wind chimes. Velen stood at the edge of the platform. She wore a robe of deep blue, the same color as the evening sky. She smiled as Toma stepped off the ship. "Welcome," she said. "You accepted my invitation." Toma nodded slowly. "Yes, I wasn't sure at first, but this place is beautiful." Velen's eyes sparkled. "Beauty is only the surface. What matters is the meaning beneath it." He wasn't sure what to say, so he just smiled politely. She turned to the 3 women who had brought him. "You may go. Let him see our home with his own eyes." The 3 daughters bowed slightly and left quietly, walking through an archway covered in vines. Velen walked beside Toma as they moved through the floating garden. "You gave me a gift that holds great meaning to us," she said. "On your world, it may seem like just a bottle, but on Aloria, sharing such a thing is a mark of deep trust." Toma glanced at her. "I didn't know. I only thought you wanted something rare." Velen smiled. "Sometimes, even without knowing. We do things that open doors. You open one. Now you must choose whether to step through it." They walked past trees that glowed softly and pools that reflected the stars even in daylight. Finally, they reached a wide courtyard where a table had been set under a tree with golden leaves. Fruits, breads, and warm drinks waited. Sit, Velen said. Eat, rest, and listen. Toma sat, and she sat across from him. I am the stepmother of 3 daughters. They are of age to choose a life partner. But on Aloria, it is not the daughters who choose. It is the house. The choice comes from the heart of the family. Toma blinked. Are you saying you think I should be their partner? Velen's voice stayed calm. The moment you offered that bottle, it became more than a trade. It became a symbol, a gesture that marked you as someone different. Our customs see that as fate. Toma picked up a piece of fruit but didn't eat. I don't know anything about your world. I'm just a trader. She looked at him kindly. And yet you were honest. You did not try to impress. You spoke simply. That is what makes you rare. Toma looked out across the garden. The daughters were nowhere in sight. He felt strange. This was too much, too fast. I can't decide something like that in one day. He said, You do not need to, Velen replied. Stay with us for 7 days. Spend time with each daughter. Listen to them. Speak with them. At the end, if your heart does not speak, you may leave. No one will stop you. Toma thought for a moment. The stars had carried him far from Earth. His ship was small. His days were lonely. Maybe this was the adventure he had been waiting for. He looked back at Velen. 7 days. I'll stay. Velen nodded, pleased. Then come. I will show you where you will sleep. As she stood and led him into the heart of House Velen, Toma felt something shift inside him. He had come to sell things, but now something was being offered to him, something he didn't yet understand, and the story was just beginning. Toma woke up to the sound of soft chimes. A warm light filled the room, not from a lamp, but from the walls themselves. The space was peaceful, built from smooth stone and wood that seemed to grow rather than be carved. Vines with small blue flowers hung from the ceiling, swaying gently with the breeze. This was his first morning in House Velan. He stretched, dressed in the soft clothes that had been left for him, and stepped outside. The air was cool and fresh. A clear path of smooth stones led into a garden, where Velen waited under a tree with yellow leaves. Did you sleep well? She asked. Yes, Toma replied. It was the best rest I've had in a long time. Velen nodded. Good. Today, you will begin to know the daughters of this house. Each will spend time with you. At the end of the 7 days, the choice will be yours. Toma scratched his head. What if I don't choose any of them? Then you will leave with honor. She said, You will return to your world with gifts and thanks. Toma nodded slowly. He still didn't know what to expect. Velen stepped aside. Laura will be with you today. At that moment, a figure walked toward them. She wore a dress the color of green leaves and had a calm face. Her dark brown hair was tied behind her head in a simple braid. She smiled at Toma. Good morning. She said softly, Would you like to walk with me? Toma smiled back. Of course. They walked through the gardens, past strange plants, and floating petals that moved without wind. Birds with glowing wings flew overhead. Laura pointed out names of flowers and trees, explaining which ones healed and which ones sang during the night. Toma listened carefully. Laura had a quiet way of speaking. She didn't talk too much, but when she did, her words were thoughtful. She asked Toma about Earth, about the forests and oceans. She asked if humans had gardens like these. Not floating ones, Toma laughed. But yes, we have green places. I used to sit under a tree like that one when I was young. Laura smiled. Then maybe that tree is waiting for you again. They reached a small pond. Fish with glowing fins moved beneath the surface. Do you miss your home? She asked. Toma paused. Sometimes, but Earth changed a lot before I left. The places I loved are not the same anymore. Laura nodded as if she understood. That is why we keep this place untouched, so that it always feels like home. They sat by the pond for a while. Toma noticed how peaceful it was to be beside her. No rush, no pressure, just silence and soft conversation. Later, she brought him to a tree where poems were carved into the bark. Each line had been written by someone long ago. She translated a few for him. One says. She read, "A gift given without reason carries the strongest meaning." Toma raised an eyebrow. "Sounds like something about whiskey." Laura laughed gently. "Maybe that's why you're here." When the sun began to set, Velen called them back. Dinner was served in a quiet room filled with music that played from the walls. Velen spoke during the meal. "Each daughter will guide you through her world. If your heart answers in return, then you will know." Toma nodded. He looked across the table at Laura, who gave him a kind smile before leaving the room. The next morning came quickly. This time, the woman waiting was different. She stood with one hand on her hip, her long blue coat blowing slightly in the wind. Her hair was tied high, and her eyes were sharp with energy. "I'm Nima," she said, offering her hand. "Ready to move." Toma shook her hand. "Move where?" She pointed toward a flying platform just beyond the hill. The sky fields. Toma followed her with quick steps. The flying platform lifted into the air as soon as they stepped on it. Nima didn't hold any controls, yet the platform responded to her movements. She leaned forward, and it sped up. They flew over waterfalls and sharp cliffs. Large creatures soared beside them, their wings shining in the sun. "You like flying?" she asked, raising her voice above the wind. "I'm more used to sitting in a slow ship," Toma shouted back. "This is something else." She smiled and turned the platform sharply, causing it to spin. Toma grabbed the side rail and laughed. After the wild ride, they landed on a floating arena made of crystal tiles. A set of small racing crafts waited in a row. "You're going to fly one," Nima said. Toma stared at the sleek machines. "I've never piloted anything like that." "You learn," she said. Fast, she climbed into one of the crafts and waved him over. Toma hesitated, then stepped in. The controls lit up around him. The craft lifted with a gentle hum. Nima was already in the air. She guided him around the ring with simple instructions through a voice link. At first, Toma wobbled, but slowly he began to understand the way the craft moved with thought and balance. By the end of the race, he was laughing like a child. After they landed, Nima handed him a drink made from sky fruit juice. "You're not bad," she said. "Most guests are scared of falling." Toma took a sip and smiled. "Maybe I was too surprised to be scared." Nima sat beside him on the edge of the field. "Flying is about trust," she said. "In the air, in yourself, in the one guiding you." Toma looked at her. "You're different from Laura." "We are all different," Nima replied. "That's why our house needs someone who can see each of us clearly." They flew back as the sun set behind the towers of House Velen. The sky turned gold, then deep blue. As Toma stepped off the platform, he felt a strange mix of excitement and calm. 2 days had passed. He had spent time with 2 daughters, both kind, both different. Both made him feel something he hadn't felt in years. He didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but something inside him had begun to shift. The bottle was gone, but something new had been opened in return. Toma woke up early. The soft chimes from the wallflowers had become familiar now. The room felt less like a guest room and more like a place he belonged to. He sat up and looked around. Outside the window, golden birds flew in slow circles above the trees. The sky was painted with warm orange and soft pink. 3 days had passed in House Velen. He had walked through peaceful gardens with Laura. He had flown above the sky fields with Nima. Now, only one daughter remained. After a simple breakfast of warm fruit bread and tea that smelled like honey, a quiet knock came at his door. Toma opened it to find a woman standing there. She wore a long robe made of soft silver threads. Her scarf shimmered like starlight, and her eyes were deep, like still water. "I am Zell," she said with a gentle voice. "I will walk with you today." Toma smiled. "I've been waiting to meet you." She nodded slowly and turned without another word. Toma followed her down a stone path that led into a quieter part of the floating island. They walked through tall trees where the leaves made soft sounds, almost like music. Wind passed through long chimes that hung from branches. Each chime had a symbol on it. As the wind moved them, soft tones filled the air. Zell finally spoke. "This is the Thought Grove. Here, our family comes to think, to remember, and to dream. Toma looked around. The trees, the stones, even the air, it all felt like it held memories. You like quiet places? He asked. Zell gave a small smile. I listen better when there is silence. They walked deeper into the grove, reaching a smooth platform of white stone. In the center was a large circular window with no glass, showing the endless sky. Round. It wore carving symbols that glowed gently with soft blue light. Zell sat on a bench beside the window. Toma sat beside her. Do you miss Earth? She asked, looking at the sky. Toma nodded. I do. Sometimes. But I think I was already losing it before I left. The cities changed. The people changed. I didn't know where I belonged anymore. Zell turned to him. And do you think you belong here? Toma didn't answer right away. He looked at the carvings. One of them looked like a pair of hands reaching toward a star. Another looked like a seed growing from a rock. I don't know, he said, but I feel something here, something real. Zell looked pleased. Then listen to what that feeling tells you. She stood and led him through a narrow path to a tall tower made of smooth glass. Inside were shelves upon shelves, filled with glowing crystals. Each crystal hummed with a soft sound. This is our memory library, she said. Each crystal holds a story. Some are from hundreds of years ago. Zell picked one up and placed it in a holder. A soft light filled the room. A voice began to speak, calm and clear. It told the story of a traveler who came from a broken world. He had nothing to give except a single seed. But that seed grew into a forest. The people called him their guest, and later, their guide. When the story ended, Zell turned to Toma. Not all stories begin with meaning. Some grow meaning over time. Toma looked at the crystal. I never thought one bottle could lead to this. Zell placed the crystal back. It wasn't the bottle. It was the way you gave it. They walked to the top of the tower. From there, Toma could see the entire floating island, the gardens, the lakes, the towers. And beyond that, the sky stretching far and wide. Zell stood beside him, silent. Toma spoke. I thought I was just a trader, someone who sold things and kept moving. But being here, with all of you, I feel like maybe I'm more than that. Zell turned her head toward him. You are. They stayed there until the sun moved low in the sky. Shadows stretched across the land, and the lights of House Velen began to glow like stars. As they walked back toward the main hall, Zell said one last thing. Tomorrow, Velen will speak with you again. After that, the final days begin. Toma paused at the door to his room. Zell, thank you. She gave a soft nod. Rest well. Toma entered the room and closed the door behind him. He sat on the edge of his bed, thinking. Each daughter had shown him a different side of their world. Laura had offered peace, beauty, and calm. Nima had brought challenge, joy, and courage. Zell had open thought, memory, and meaning. They were not asking him to choose one of them. They were asking if he was ready to belong to all of them. Not as a prize, not as a stranger, but as a part of something ancient and sacred. Toma looked out the window. Stars were rising above the sky. He whispered to himself, maybe I was never just a trader after all. And for the first time in many years, he smiled not because of a good deal or a lucky find, but because his heart felt full. The next morning came with soft golden light, and the sky above House Velen was clear and wide. Toma stood by his window, watching floating petals fall from the tall sky trees. Everything in this place moved slowly, like time itself was in no hurry. He had now spent a day with each daughter of House Velen. Laura, gentle and calm. Nima, strong and wild. Zell, thoughtful and wise. Each of them had shown him something different, something true. And now, something inside Toma had changed. He didn't feel like just a guest anymore. This world was beginning to feel like home. Soft knock came at the door. It was Velen herself, standing with her usual calm grace. Today, she said, you will face the crystal of choice. Toma gave a small nod. I'm ready. Velen led him through the garden paths, past the high towers and soft pools. They reached a tall hall made of white stone and silver beams. The doors opened without touch, and inside was a large circular chamber with one thing in the center, single tall crystal glowing faintly blue. Toma stepped inside. The room was quiet, almost sacred. The crystal pulsed gently, like it was alive. Velen stood beside him. This crystal is ancient. It does not judge. It only listens. You must speak one honest sentence. Nothing more, nothing less. If the crystal turns bright blue, your heart is in the right place. Toma looked at the crystal. It stood taller than him, but it didn't feel cold or distant. It felt warm, like something waiting to understand him. He took a deep breath. I don't know what the future holds, but I want to understand your world and walk with those who live in it. The words left his mouth slowly, but without hesitation. The crystal did not move for a moment. Then, a gentle hum filled the room. Light spread across the floor in soft waves, and the crystal glowed bright blue, pure and clear. Velen closed her eyes for a moment and smiled. You have spoken from the heart. The house has heard you. Toma stepped back, his chest rising and falling. He hadn't realized he was holding his breath. Velen turned toward him. Now, we move to the last part of your time here. The choice is still yours, but the door is now open. You may stay. You may become part of this family. Toma nodded. I think I knew before I even entered this room. Velen's voice was calm. Still, take 2 more days. Speak freely. Think clearly. There's no need to rush a path that could last a lifetime. That night, a quiet dinner was held beneath a ceiling of stars. No loud music, no grand speeches. Just warm lights, soft food, and peaceful conversation. Laura sat beside Toma, telling him about a tree that only bloomed during moonlight. Nima leaned back in her chair, laughing at a story Toma told about his first space trade when he accidentally sold a soap bar thinking it was rare stone. Zell added her own story about a bird that sang a perfect tune once in its life, just before leaving its nest forever. Velen watched them all with quiet joy. After dinner, Toma stepped outside alone. The sky was wide and clear, full of stars. He walked to the thought grove, where the trees made music with the wind. There, he sat on the same bench where Zell had taken him. He thought about his life before all this, traveling from place to place, never staying long, never feeling needed. Now, everything felt different. These people, these daughters, did not just welcome him, they trusted him. They had offered not only their time, but their hearts. He remembered Laura's quiet smile when she read the old poems. He remembered Nima's bright laugh as she flew through the sky, not afraid of anything. He remembered Zell's deep gaze as she told him, listen to what the feeling tells you. And he remembered the bottle, the small, dusty bottle that started it all, a gift given without plan. An old earth drink, a simple act, but maybe that was the point. Some stories don't begin with thunder. Some begin with something small, a gesture, a word, a bottle of whiskey. Toma stood and looked up at the stars. I think I've already chosen, he said to himself. The next morning, Velen met him once more at the crystal chamber. The room was quiet again, waiting. You have 2 more days, she reminded gently. I don't need them. Toma replied, I know now. I want to stay. Velen didn't seem surprised. She simply nodded. Then we prepare, she said. Toma felt a calm peace fall over him. This wasn't the end of a journey. It was the beginning of a new one. Not as a trader, not as a visitor, but as part of a family respected, trusted, and chosen. The morning air was cool and gentle as it flowed across the floating gardens of House Velen. Birds flew slowly in the soft light, and flower petals floated like they were dancing in the breeze. Toma stood at the center of the main garden. The same place where he had arrived just days ago now felt completely different. He no longer felt like a visitor. He stood calmly, wearing the traditional robe given to him by Velen. The fabric was light and soft, with silver lines woven through it, shining gently under the sun. Today was the day of his choice. He had already spoken from the heart in front of the ancient crystal. The light had turned blue. That had opened the door. But his final words, his final answer had to be given in front of the entire house. That was tradition. That was honor. Velen approached quietly. She stood beside him and gave him a gentle nod. Her calm presence always brought peace. You did not have to speak yet. she said. But the house is ready to hear your heart. Toma smiled softly. So am I. From the far side of the garden, the three daughters appeared. Each walked with her own way, each shining with her own light. Laura walked barefoot, her long green robe trailing behind her. Her calm eyes met Toma's, and her small smile was full of warmth. Nima came next, her coat flying behind her like wind itself. She gave Toma a confident nod, full of fire and strength. Zell followed with slow, graceful steps, her silver scarf catching the light. Her quiet gaze held thought, like she already understood his answer before he spoke. The four of them stood before Toma now. No one said anything. The wind passed through the tall trees. The flowers swayed gently. Velen raised her hand. Today, Toma stands before us not as a visitor, not as a traitor, but as someone who gave a gift of peace. His words were honest. His spirit was open. He has spent time with each daughter. He has listened. Now, he will speak, and his voice will guide what comes next. Toma looked at each daughter one by one. He looked at Laura, the daughter of silence and nature. He remembered walking through the garden with her, reading the poems carved in trees. She had shown him how stillness could heal. He looked at Nima, the daughter of flight and fire. He remembered soaring through the sky fields, feeling the rush of wind, hearing her laugh. She had reminded him how to feel alive. He looked at Zell, the daughter of thought and memory. He remembered sitting with her in the memory tower, listening to the story of the traveler and the seed. She had shown him the beauty of meaning. And then Toma took a step forward. He placed his hand on his heart. I came here with no plan, he began. I only gave a bottle to someone who asked. I didn't know what it meant. I didn't know where it would lead. He paused, and the air felt still, as if even the wind was listening. But being here with you all, I've felt something I haven't felt in a long time. I've felt peace. I've felt joy. I've felt seen. Toma looked at Velen, then at the daughters. You are different from each other, but together you are one family. You accepted me without asking for anything in return. You gave me time, space, and trust. He took another step. I want to stay. I want to walk beside all three of you, not as someone above or below, but as a part of your lives. If you'll have me, I choose this house. I choose you. Silence filled the garden again. Then Velen smiled, a soft, true smile. You have spoken clearly. And now, we speak as well. Laura stepped forward. She placed a ring made of green vines around his wrist. You bring peace to my heart, Nima. Step next. She placed a ring made of sky metal on his other wrist. You give strength to my spirit. Zell came last. She placed a ring of clear crystal over his chest. You give meaning to my soul. Velen raised her hand again. The house accepts you. From this moment, you are no longer a guest. You are part of our family. Welcome to House Velen. A soft bell rang in the distance, and the trees lit with small glowing lights. The sky above shimmered with soft colors. There was no loud celebration, no shouts or music. Just peace, light, and quiet joy. Toma stood still for a moment, feeling the rings on his skin, the soft wind on his face, and the warmth of three hands now resting gently on his arms and back. He had traded a bottle. He had walked into a garden. He had opened his heart, and now he was home. Days passed gently after the ceremony in the garden. Toma's life had become something new. He was no longer just a trader from Earth. He was now a part of House Velen, surrounded by peace, tradition, and strange beauty. Each morning began with the soft chime of wind bells. Light moved slowly across the silver trees as if time had no hurry. The house had a rhythm, and slowly, Toma became part of it. He worked in the gardens with Laura. She showed him how the soil here listened to words. When he spoke kindly to the roots, the flowers opened faster. They planted together, hands in warm soil, silence between them. And it was not empty silence, it was full of calm. In the afternoons, he trained with Nima. She was teaching him how to ride the skyboard. It was a fast, floating board that moved with the wind. At first, Toma fell more than he flew, but she laughed every time and helped him up. Bit by bit, he learned to ride the wind beside her. Flying over trees and rivers. In the evenings, he joined Zell in the memory tower. They read old records and stories written on shining pages. Zell loved asking questions. She listened carefully to Thomas' answers and often smiled when he shared tales from Earth. This story of Earth dogs, she said one evening, is strange but sweet. Animals that love you even if you do nothing. Toma laughed. That's what makes them special. They love just because they can. Zell nodded, as if writing that idea in her mind forever. Velen watched all of this quietly. She did not speak much, but her eyes showed peace. She often stood at the edge of the garden, arms crossed behind her back, looking at her daughters and their new companion. She had brought Toma into their lives, and now he had become part of the house without force, without command. One day, a visitor arrived from the nearby Sky City. She was a messenger, dressed in smooth silver robes, riding a floating sphere. She brought a message for Velen. House Vane wishes to meet the one you have accepted, she said with a respectful bow. Velen raised an eyebrow. Why, they say his act with the bottle has reached many ears. They believe such a person must be seen and perhaps invited. Velen did not answer at once. She turned and looked at Toma, who had just stepped into the garden, hands still dusty from planting. Will you speak with them? She asked. Toma hesitated. If you wish it. She shook her head. It must be your choice. Toma looked at the sky. Then, yes, I will meet them. 2 days later, he was taken to the Sky City. It floated high above the forest, with tall towers and blue roads made of light. It was more modern than House Velen, faster, louder, brighter. The leaders of House Vane greeted him kindly. They asked questions, offered him gifts, even offered him a role among their own thinkers. They liked the story of the bottle. To them, it was a clever trick, a trade that had gained something valuable. But Toma smiled and shook his head. It was not a trick. I did not give the bottle to gain anything. I gave it because someone asked kindly. They looked confused. You mean you gave away a rare thing for free? Yes. They whispered among themselves. It seemed strange to them. But one of the elders finally nodded. Perhaps that is why it worked. You gave with no wish to receive. And in doing so, you received more than most. Toma returned to House Velen that evening. As he stepped into the garden, he saw Laura, Nima, and Zell waiting for him under the crystal tree. The sun was setting, painting the sky in soft orange and blue. You're back, Nima said. Did they try to keep you? Zell asked with a small smile. They offered me a chair in their council. Toma said, but I told them I already have a place. Laura stepped forward and handed him a small cup of warm tea. This is better than any chair in the sky. He drank and nodded. Yes, much better. Later that night, as stars filled the sky, Toma sat with all for women Velen, Laura, Nima, and Zell around a slow-burning fire. They did not speak much. They just watched the flames, listened to the quiet wind, and felt the soft weight of time. This life, Toma thought, was never planned. I didn't dream of it. I didn't even know it was possible. And yet, it had happened. He remembered. The bottle of whiskey. That old glass, filled with something simple, something human. It had been just a gift, but from that small moment, a whole world had opened. He had found a place where gifts were not measured, where time moved slowly, where 3 daughters had each offered a part of their hearts. He did not choose just one of them. He had chosen all of them, or maybe they had chosen him. Velen looked at the stars. This world is full of fast things, ships, trades, machines. But the strongest things grow slow, like trees, like trust, like family. Toma nodded, and like love. This sat there for a long time. No more words were needed. No more trade. No more waiting. Just a life, a new beginning, together.